Greetings everyone, I'm RSV. Here is a quick overview of today's video. I'll be going through Bouncer PA, Hex, what techs a bouncer should use, Bouncer skill tree, basic bouncer, intermediate bouncer, advanced bouncer, and gearing. So, let's begin. Bouncer PA. We'll start with the normal attack. Bouncer has a normal attack combo, the basic normal attack kit, so slide, melee, the downward slam, and step counter. Bouncer also has another option though. If you hold the normal attack key, you'll start performing a waving attack, where you'll take a wide arc at first and gradually get smaller arcs as you continue to pummel your opponent. This attack will accumulate in a very hard hitting hit. I have aptly named it Wombo Combo in my notes. It is one of Bouncer's strongest abilities, and possibly one of the strongest abilities in the game period. Spinning Gust. This Gust is a PA that either costs 15 PP or 25, depending on which stage of it you use. If you just use the normal stage where it costs 15 PP, it will hit twice in quick succession, doing an arcing attack in front of you. However, if you hold the PA button instead of doing a second upward attack, you'll instead do a swipe in front of you. Violent Gale. Violent Gale is a PA with two stages as well. It either uses 18 PP or it uses 25 PP. When using 18 PP, it will do a series of swipes in front of you, while if you use the maximum amount of PP, the attack will accumulate with an explosion that will do more damage. Fierce Wave. Fierce Wave is a fairly ranged PA. You attack at a range and send out multiple attacks. If you hold the PA will do more damage. PA will leave cuts in space, making it appearing like you've cut space itself. The first stage uses 12 PP, the second stage uses 22 PP. Jet Sweep Jolt. Jet Sweep Jolt is a PA that you can generate by either using your weapon action to dodge or using your basic attack Wombo Combo to build up the gauge. The attack recovers PP, does not halt PP recovery, and on top of this does quite a bit of damage. The attack also grants iframes. Your weapon action is a quick, simple twirl. If you use this to evade an attack, you'll immediately throw out a ball whether you counter or not. You can then follow this up by clicking the normal attack button to execute a full counter. Photon Burst. The peanut butter of a booty bouncer is a simple charged, hard-hitting multi-attack that hits quite a bit. The peanut butter will also recover all your jet sweep gauge, so you can use jet sweep again. Note, jet sweep has a cooldown. After every tech use you use, you can use a dash of the tech to reposition. This dash is very handy in combat, especially if you get knocked down or are just out of position. This movement will get you a lot of distance, and using techs is always useful in combat. Moving on to techs. Every tech has a charged and non-charged variant. Also, all techs except for fire have a tech option in the skill tree that enhances and adds an effect. We'll start with Wind. Wind has two PAs, Zan and Gazan. Zan is your AoE option, and Gazan is your single target option. The skill tree ability for this causes your uncharged Zan and Gazan to leave a marker on enemies. When you use a charged PA to detonate the marker on enemies, in the case of Zan, it will cause a massive AoE to erupt from all nearby enemies. Zan is your AoE option, while Gazan is your single target option. A charged Gazan causes the mark to explode for single target damage. Lightning. You have Zonde and Gazond. While Gazond is the AoE option, Zondi is more effective for AoE clearing due to the way that lightning chains. When lightning hits, it will chain with nearby enemies, causing the single attack of the Zondi to actually be an AoE. Coupling this with the fact that Zondi can be spammed really quickly, Zondi ends up overshadowing Gazond in every way. Zondi calls down a single lightning bolt. It hits a target and then chains. After using Zondi and Gazond several times, you will generate a lightning proc. On your next charged lightning attack, it will have a stronger effect. As I said before, Gazond is the AoE option. It simply causes a passive area where enemies take damage in, and the charged attack simply causes immediate damage in that same area. Moving on to Ice. Ice has an AoE and a single target variant. Bata is the single target variant, sending out a wave of ice in front of you, attacking and piercing through all enemies it hits. It only hits each enemy once, however. Gibraltar is your AoE option. It hits multiple enemies, and both will cause ice procs to appear on the enemy. When the ice prop goes purple, however, you want to use a charged version of the PA to detonate it. Detonating this proc causes massive damage onto the target. You can have multiple ice procs up at once. Dark. We have Magid and Gimmigid. Magid appears to be the AoE option, sending out a ball in front of you, while Gimmigid appears to be the single target option, causing darkness to appear on the enemy and cause damage. The effect of darkness is just to build up balls that float around you. These balls cap at 3 and you'll get 1 per PA you use. Using a charged Megid or Gemigid will cause the balls to spawn additional attacks. In the case of Megid, it will spawn up to 4 balls that attack in an AoE. These balls, from my experience, can hit a target a maximum of 2 times, while Gemigid gains up to 3 extra damaging attacks on its charged attack, causing it to do more damage. Light, we have Grant's Angi Grant. Grant's attacks a single target with swords. The charge attack causes more swords to come out, and will cause the light effect. While Grant, when you use a single attack, will cause a sword AoE to appear around you. Holding Grants will cause 3 lasers to come out in front of you and attack what's in front of you in an AoE. The light effect is called Grant's Glitter. Grant's Glitter will cause additional attacks to happen on all your light techs, depending on the tech that you use, thus increasing your tech's damage. The Grant's Glitter effect, however, is not expunged when you use it, so you can keep using light techs, charged or not, during the Grant's Glitter effect, and the effect will not be consumed. You can actually reproc the effects of Grant's Glitter in the Halo's duration, and this will cause the effect to reset, and the duration will reset. In my first recording of text, I actually completely missed the fire element. This is because fire is pretty unremarkable. It does not have a huge niche, and is very underused. It does not have a skill in the skill tree to benefit it, and it consists of a quick fireball attack, a charge pointed explosion on a target, an AoE around the player, and a charged flame pillar. Other than this though, there isn't much going for fire. It has no support and is completely isolated, with barely any enemies actually being weak to fire. It is probably the worst element in the game right now. Bouncer skill tree. Defeat PP gain. Defeat PP gain is a skill that restores 50% of your PP when an enemy is downed, either via elemental down or normal physical down. I believe this applies to breaks as well. However, it shouldn't really matter for breaks as your break combo is very specific. Defeat amplifier increases the down factor applied to your enemies. This just causes you to knock enemies down faster, whether it be by element or by physical. It is very good for you as a bouncer because of that defeat PP gain in the first place. Partial destroy advantage increases the damage you deal and reduces the damage you take according to the number of enemy parts destroyed on a single enemy. Physical decline. Hitting an enemy with your photon arts makes it easier to induce physical down. An additional PA hit can increase the down factor by up to level 3. This just means that depending on your attack, you're getting increased down factor on enemies, which is really strong. This can only be used by main class though. When it comes to the elemental effect skill, you do not actually need to use them as your main class. If you are subbed as a force or tector, you can simply grab all 5 of them as a force or tector instead of actually using them on your bouncer build. This opens up a lot of room for hybrid play, as all of a sudden you have 5 extra skill points to use in your bouncer tree. There is no perceivable penalty for using them on a subclass rather than your main class. But let's go through the elemental key skills of bouncer. Elemental decline. This is the same as physical decline, only your elements are causing the down factor to apply at a stronger rate. Decline amplifier. Down factor increased stages will increase more easily for physical decline and elemental decline. This actually does also apply to soaring blades, and just enhances the rate at which you gain the stages of elemental decline and physical decline, and just makes it easier to get the declines off. Firebolt. This is the ice technique skill. This causes you to gain a ice sigil on enemies when you use it. The more you use ice skills, the bigger the ice sigil will get, up to 2 times. When you use a charged ice technique on this, whether that be the AoE ice or the single target ice, you will cause the mark to explode for more damage. Zombie Clad. Hitting an enemy with a number of uncharged lightning techniques will cause you to enter a high voltage state. This state will strengthen the next charged lightning technique, after which you are returned to normal. Zan Gale. Hitting an enemy with an uncharged wind technique will affix a vortex. Hitting that enemy with a charged technique of the same element will activate the vortex, causing additional attacks. The type of attacks caused by the vortex change depending on which technique you hit with. In other words, if you hit with a Zan, you'll cause an AoE. If you hit with Gizan, you'll cause a single target attack. Grant's Glitter. Hitting an enemy multiple times with a light technique will cause you to temporarily be surrounded by a halo. While it is active, using light techniques will cause additional attacks depending on the technique. Activating another halo while one is already active will not cause the effect to stack, but will instead reset the duration of the already active one. There are no enemies enemies weak to light in the game right now. Neged Sphere. When you hit an enemy with an uncharged dark technique, you can stack up to 3 dark orbs. Using a charged dark technique will consume all the orbs and increase the power of that technique by the amount corresponding to how many were stocked. Jet Attack Extra. You can string 4 normal attacks together. Jet Boots Element Set. Gain an additional attack of the element that corresponds to the last technique used when hitting an enemy with your photon arts. This is what I mentioned earlier. When you use a photon art, your PAs will gain an element. This is really strong as you can cause elemental down faster. Jet Intensity. Holding down the normal button when enemies are within a certain range will unleash a combo attack that gradually increases in speed. This is the really hard hitting attack that I mentioned before and called a wombo combo. But this again is one of the most important skill points in your tree as it gives you access to one of your most powerful abilities. Boot Trick Bounce Counter. When you successfully dodge using a weapon action, you automatically unleash a counter. Pressing the normal attack button in addition will release another one. Thrust Dive. Pressing the normal attack button at a certain time after releasing a technique will cause you to charge at the enemy. This is a skill point that unlocks the ability to dash to a target. Jet Sweep Jolt. Build up gauge by attacking or dodging, then expend it for a single powerful blast. Realistically, you're only going to be building this up with Jet Intensity, your Photon Burst, and dodging. Jet Sweep Jolt PP save. Your PP consumption is temporarily reduced after using Jet Sweep Swarm. That is actually a typo in the text. It's meant to say Jet Sweep Jolt, but your PP resumption is reduced to 90% and this lasts 20 seconds. So, what are the basics of Bouncer? Here are a couple of basic Bouncer tips. 1. Do not be using your wombo combo when you want to dodge. It is very hard to dodge out of a wombo combo, and you are better off trying to dodge off of a PA than the wombo combo, as you could accidentally chain into the wombo combo and instead of doing a dodge, do the wombo combo again and get hit. In the case of Gigantics, this could prove fatal. Do not be afraid to use your techs. While you are playing a kicky class, and I know you want to kick, your techs give you a lot of utility that is incredibly useful. Do not be afraid to use them. If you are building tech, they scale too, and they will be doing full damage. They are not your best options in all scenarios, but they give you a lot of AoE, and they can be very strong situationally. You can also use your techs to reposition vertically, meaning you do not have to jump necessarily to stay airborne, and this can be very handy. Do not be afraid to fall down to the ground to jump back up though. Sometimes it is more effective to use that jump, as situationally it is possible that you dash straight up into a hit and it is easier to dodge if you're jumping. There are some intermediate bouncer tips. 1. On the Dustle fight, you have an AoE that persists. This AoE you can sit in it and do a little dance. This little dance will continually counter until the very end. You'll continue to do quite a hefty amount of damage during this phase, and it is completely free damage that also recovers your PP. If just before the AoE ends, the last counter you do, you decide to hit the normal action, you'll get even more out of this counter combo. Make sure you always have a matching element to the enemy you're attacking. It can be, in practice, fairly hard to remember to do, especially when you're farming a PSE burst. You can simply forget to switch out of Zondi on a wind weak enemy, and this can slow you down. You do not have to commit to your PAs. Personally, I rarely use the second stage of my PA. I do not use them even if this is potentially a DPS loss in a lot of circumstances. This is because I just like the more fluid feeling that this gives me. I move around a lot faster, and I just feel like I have a lot more freedom. You do actually benefit in some cases, depending on what element the boss is weak to, by being able to build up your orbs or your stacks faster, because your stacks appear to build at the start of PA, not during. Additionally, charging your PA does not consume your stacks of tech element, so use them at your discretion, but you do not need to go into the second stage of your PAs if you do not want to. I'll also drop your break combo here. Boots Bouncer has a very specific and very powerful break combo. The break combo is, in no particular order except for Jet Sweep being in the middle, use your Wombo combo or Photon Burst first, Jet Sweep Jolt in the middle, and then use the one that you didn't use. Not only does this combo not use PP, it also hits for the maximum amount of damage that you can do while recovering PP. Note, if you happen to have a full stack of an element, you can also chain that in at the end or the start of the combo and still be able to do the full combo. I always recommend doing it at the end of the combo though, in case the break times out, as you do not want to miss the primary damage dealers of your kit. Advanced Bouncer tips. So, what is the best sub to use as a bouncer? And why do I talk about this in the advanced category? Well, your subclass does not benefit statistically to your build. However, it does give small boosts here and there. So, what are the best classes for Bouncer? Well, here are some recommendations. Gunner is a good option for more passive PP game, as PP attack recovery and overwhelm will increase your PP recovery. Force is good for its PP recovery boost, which increases your natural PP regeneration. Eradication PP gain if you spec into it, and the PP conversion. But you also, as a bouncer, have two options for damage. You can either sub into Fighter or Tector. Now, Tector, you benefit from weak element amplifier. This causes you to recover your photon gauge more quickly, which means more peanut butters, which is potentially really strong. You also benefit from Awake Isle. So, if you have Tector as a subclass, you basically have Evil Cult's Photon Burst regeneration rate when you're fighting bosses, which it can be really strong. On top of this, you do get access to saving your skill points by specking into the Barta, Glundies, and Grants and Megid decks. But why do I recommend Fighter as a subclass for Bouncer? Well, Bouncer has a lot of defeat amplification, meaning that the bosses that you fight will be down more. You also get PP recovery in this setup. The defeat advantage will be useful and will increase your DPS quite a bit, as this does apply when enemies are break, meaning you'll be doing more damage with your break combo and more damage in general. So which one would end up being statistically the best? Honestly, probably still Tector or Force, but I will leave that at your discretion. Fighter and Gunner are still strong subclasses for a Bouncer main. As mentioned earlier, your Jet Sweep Jolt gives you iframes. So you can actually use this to avoid getting hit while you're doing your wombo combo. Instead of using a dodge, you can use the Jet Sweep Jolt to avoid an attack. This way is more surefire and helps prevent you taking damage while you're using your wombo combo. Let's move into gearing. For a purely offensive build, I recommend Ngs Soul 2, Alt Sec Rotter 3, Gigas Technique, and Addy Def Tech. For a more defensive build, I would recommend switching out Ngs Soul for Dreadkeeper, or switching out Addy Def Tech for Addy Staspy Tech. However, you are probably better switching Ngs Soul for Dreadkeeper 3 in this circumstance, as you lose less. Note that potency floor is always a DPS loss over raw potency in every scenario. This is purely to get you more tanking. This has been my Booty Bouncer guide. If you need more guides, here they are. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.